Hello, my name is Mr. Dorn and welcome to tubanow.com. I'll be your guide for this website, and if you have any questions about what you see, always just be sure to check the menu up top to find resources, and don't forget you can always go back and review any of these videos at any time. Hope you enjoy. Alright, and welcome to our first lesson about the tuba. If you don't know anything about the tuba, this is a great place to start because we're just going to dive right into all the basics of the instrument, talk a little bit about holding it, just how to take care of it, things like that. So before we get started, when you get your instrument, it's important to know a couple things that you need to have in order to be able to play. First thing is, you should look in your case, you should be able to find a mouthpiece. This is about the size of the tuba mouthpiece. Very, very important. This is what you're going to have in order to be able to play the instrument. And then second is the main instrument itself. Okay. Now this is a tuba I'm using for this example. And before you take it out of the case, make sure that you have a good place to sit down. Make sure you don't have anything around you that you could easily drop this on or trip over, because tubas tend to be an expensive instrument, and it's important that we take good care of them. Whenever you're handling the tuba and you need to walk around with it, it's always good to at least wrap one arm around it or hold it with two hands, just so you don't end up dropping it. The tuba itself is a member of the brass family. It looks very similar to some of the other brass instruments. It looks like that because it's made of brass. It's a metal instrument. You'll recognize that it has some parts very similar to some other instruments, like the trumpet or the trombone or French horn, things like that. But it's a much larger instrument. That's the main thing. Now, when you get your tuba out, you're going to want to make sure that you're very careful to hold it. And when you sit down, you have some way to hold it steadily. If you're going to sit down in a chair to hold it, that's great. Most of the times when you hold it, you want to set it across your lap just whenever you're not playing it, just so you have a firm grip on it. But if you need to play the instrument, you're going to have to put it up into a playing position. Most of the time when you need to play the instrument, you're going to have to put it up into a position like this. Okay? So let's talk a little bit about the parts of the tuba so you get familiar with it. Now, one thing to keep in mind is your tuba might not look exactly like this instrument, and that's okay. But there's some basic parts that every tuba has that we need to know about. One is, we already talked about, the mouthpiece. Okay? The mouthpiece goes into the small tube near the bell. Okay? This is called the lead pipe. And when you put the mouthpiece into the lead pipe, you just want to set it in there nice and gently. You do not need to hammer it in or push it in or shove it in. If you do that, the mouthpiece will get stuck and you won't be able to put your instrument away. So very, very important, when you go to put the mouthpiece in, you just take a small moment to put it in and twist it slightly. I'll give you a close-up of that. Just need to take the mouthpiece, slide it in carefully until it doesn't go in very much further, then a small little twist, and that should hold it in there nice and steady. Okay? Same to take it out, just a little twist, and there you go. All right. Now, so that's how we put our instrument together to begin with. When you go to play the instrument, it's also very important that you know what parts of it. So this is the main body of the instrument. This is what we call the bell. Okay? And over here, you'll notice these parts right here that go up and down. These are called the valves. Now, the valves are what help change notes on the instrument. We'll get to that later. If you have a tuba that is positioned like this, where the bell goes this direction, and the valves are on the front right here, that's another style of tuba, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just important to keep in mind that you might have an instrument that you need to hold with your hand up here, and your valves are going to be in front, as opposed to holding it across the front here with the valves up top. This one we call vertical valves. The other one would be horizontal valves. All right, so we've got our basic parts of the instrument. Now, there is some care that we sometimes need to do on the tuba. These right here are slides that control the intonation of the tuba. When you first get your instrument, you might notice that these will be pushed all the way in. Okay? If that's the case, that's okay. We don't really need to worry about those for right now, but when it comes to maintaining our instrument, it's really, really important that these slides get taken care of so that they aren't going to get stuck. What we end up usually putting on these is a slide grease, and you should probably talk to your teacher a little bit more in depth about doing that. But for today, what we're going to worry about more is how to get started actually learning some notes on the instrument. Okay, so up here, we talked about our valves. The valves go right here, and when you position your hand over the valves, you want to make sure you have 3 fingers, okay? Now there are tubas that have more than 3 valves. Sometimes you'll see a 4th valve over here, or sometimes you'll see a 4th valve on the side of the instrument. And if you're playing one of those tubas with the valves in the front, sometimes you'll even see 3 or 4. There'll be a couple pictures up there of what the different types of tubas look like. Okay, so we got the basic body parts of the instrument. We know where they are. One other thing to keep in mind is these valves, if they're not working, you're going to have a difficult time being able to play the instrument. These should go up and down nice and smoothly. They shouldn't be moving slowly like this, or they shouldn't stay down and be stuck. Okay? If they are, it might be important to also let your teacher take a look at them just to make sure they're in good shape before you start learning how to play. Hopefully they've done that before they've given you a chance to watch this video. If not, it might be necessary to oil the valves. If that's the case, what you'll need is some type of brass valve oil, okay? And the valve oil is a little challenging to put in. I like to hold the instrument with my arms so that way I'm not going to accidentally drop it. You can do this with the instrument on the ground if you need to, just to be on the safe side. Let me just demonstrate with one of them first of all, just to give you an idea. So the valves have this collar on the top. If you unscrew this collar, that'll allow the valve itself to come out of the casing. Now it's really important you don't take these completely out of the casing and get them dirty. Like, you don't want to drop these on the ground, because then they won't work properly. But what you can do is, if they're able to move around, you'll notice they spin too. They have these little kind of holes in them. And if you want to put a couple dabs of the oil onto the outside of the valve like that, and just enough to get it lubricated and get it moving smoothly. Now, most instruments, what will happen is, when you go to put it back in, it won't go back in directly like that. What you'll need to do is you'll need to line up the tab. Most instruments have some kind of little tab, it's a little difficult to see here, little tab that needs to be lined up in a groove so that the valve is aligned properly. One way to do that is to push the valve slightly down, not a lot of pressure, and turn it until it finds that groove. There it goes. Once it goes into that groove, you're okay, and then you can replace the collar part of the valve, like so, and the valve's ready to go. Okay, so we got our instrument out, we know how to put it together. In our next videos, we're going to talk about making some sound and start getting going playing some songs.